Beating New Year hunger without using willpower. Look, it's January. This is when people start new plans and they're often right now suffering with hunger. They're fighting it, they're using willpower. This may be you, maybe somebody you know. So the question is, what can I do about this? And there are lots of things you can do. First of all, before we start, you've got to just check, are you simply eating too little food? I've seen lots of times people start in January, they cut out every single bit of junk food, they go all in on vegetables. Well, if you then look at how many calories they're actually eating, they have got down to like 600, 500. Or the opposite happens. People have just cranked up their movement. They've doubled their movement out of nowhere. And their food is just too low. Because for all the tricks I'm going to tell you now, if your food is here and your energy needs are here, it's just too low. And that's okay. You could say, oh, look, I don't mind. I'm getting results quick. But you may have to put up with some hunger in that results. But here, assuming your food is not massively under eating, here are some tricks you can look at. One, check you're not missing out on a particular macronutrient group. So we've got protein, we've got carbs, we've got fat. Often we're too low on these, or we've got none of these in the diet. The most common one for the average person is they haven't got enough protein in their diet. And study after study show that if you increase your protein a little bit, you feel more satiated, less hungry. But at New Year time, at the start of a planned time, very often people have cut out too many carbs and they've got zero carbs in the diet. Now, some people do quite good with zero carbs, but most people don't. It could also be you've cut out all fat and you actually do better with more fat on the thing. The first thing I would look at is, do I have protein, carbs, and fat within my meal plans, within my food overall in a day, because that can greatly reduce hunger. Number three, what's the ratio of those? So assuming you're not one of those people who does much better without one of the food macro groups, what is the ideal ratio? This varies between people, but there's a ratio of protein to carbs to fat that if you get it right, you'll be much fuller on the same amount of food. The same 500 calorie meal can make you go 5 hours without feeling hungry instead of 2 hours if you get those ratios wrong. The same intake for a day, could be 1500 calories, you can feel much hungrier on it or much less hungry. So you can play with the ratios. All you have to do is eat a meal, see when you're next hungry. If you're hungry quite soon after eating, go back to that meal, change something so that the protein, carb to fat content is slightly different and see how it affects hunger. Next thing you can do is pick foods that fill you up. Now, it sounds a bit weird, but there are two reasons that fill you up: a physical reason and also an emotional reason. So what I want to do is pick foods that make me feel satiated at a physical level. And there's a list of satiated foods, things like potato, fish is quite high up on it. And there are other foods that set off hunger. I find Weetabix, if I've ever had Weetabix and cereal, it makes me hungrier 2 hours later. That's an awful idea. It could only be 300 calories, a small meal. But if I'm hungry 3 hours later, I'm now battling hunger, and that's not a good idea. So I can pick foods that fill me up physically. The other side of this, of course, is foods that fill you up emotionally or set off triggering eating. So what you want to be doing is filling foods that don't automatically make you want to go back for more. I know personally, if I have one slice of toast, I want a second. Then I'll have a third. Then I'll have a fourth. Well, if I'm trying to get in shape and eat less food, that's probably not a good food group to have in my plan. So we're looking at things, what foods satisfy you, what foods don't satisfy you, in a physical and emotional scale. Linked closely to this is, do you have enough taste and satisfaction in your food? Because what happens is, if you've gone all healthy, but you don't like the taste of any of your foods, you're in trouble. You're not going to be able to stick to it for long. You're going to need more willpower, more motivation. So you might be slightly hungry, but what you're actually looking for is taste, is satisfaction. So the key is to try and find that in the first place. So when you look at your healthy meal, you say, that, it tastes nice. That fills me up. I enjoy that. Rather than suffering through 6 out of 10 and then eventually just giving in and going after 10 out of 10 foods. You've got to get the taste up, and it's finding ways to make that happen. Now, another element of this is, how often are you eating? Now, there's no right answer on this. Some people do much better cutting their meals down to once, twice a day, doing, say, an intermittent fast style, not eating during the daytime, because eating creates more hunger. Other people do much better, like the bodybuilders have been eating 6 meals a day for decades. So they know that every 3 hours they're going to have some food, and they know that the amount of those 6 meals is enough to lose body fat, and that's how they approach their cuts for shows. You need to find the right ratio for you. My personal experience when I was bodybuilding was 4 meals a day, 8 a.m., 12, 4, 8. That was perfect. But if I was socializing a lot, I would often use an intermittent fasting method. Don't eat till midday, or don't eat in the evenings, or eat during the day, and so forth. Find the method that controls your hunger the best. and there will be patterns to it. Now, another thing you can look at is sleep. So now sleep's not directly related to food, but it is, because what happens when you're more tired, if you haven't got enough sleep, studies have shown you're hungrier. You literally feel hungrier. Also, you'll find that your resistance to cravings is way, way less. So yes, I feel a bit hungrier, but my resistance to it, I'm not going to wait an hour to dinner. Forget it, I'm eating now. So this is the importance of sleep. Other things. Obviously, some hunger is going to be normal. Now, what we have to be careful of is just giving in on the first inclination, the first feeling of hunger. So a good technique to use is the I will have it later. And the idea is you say, I want that chocolate bar. And you say, I'm going to wait 10 minutes and let's see what happens then. Then you wait 10 minutes. Now, ideally, when you come back and you say, I still want it, you'd say, okay, let me like one more 10 minutes and I'll see what's going on. Now, some people can't do that second 10 minutes, but if you can, brilliant. And then after those 20 minutes, you would then say, do I genuinely want this? And if you want it, you eat it, no problem. If you don't want it and it's disappeared, which is very, very often the case, you just go on about your daily life. And this is about because hunger, most of it, the majority of it is fake. And a big part of feeling less hungry on a New Year plan is actually retraining your brain around hunger. Obviously, me personally, I've competed in 5 bodybuilding shows. I've done various different fasts, 5-day fasts, I've done that twice. That has retrained my brain around hunger. In the olden days, I used to eat 8 times a day. I couldn't go 2.5 hours without needing hunger, being starving and so forth. But I've retrained my brain, because what you don't want is to react to every signal of hunger from your body. Because the more you eat, the more it thinks you want to eat. And it generates a signal for hunger every 3 hours, which if you are going to eat then, and you've done it in a bodybuilder controlled way, fine. But most people haven't done that. Likewise, they've shown in studies the anticipation of eating makes you hungrier. So if I say, listen, you're not eating till 5 o'clock and it's midday, and you know I'm not messing around, I'm in control of the food and I'm not a joker, you're not going to think about food that much. You might think about it at 3:15 and you're just like, yeah, whatever, 2 hours till Ben will feed me. Getting close to 5, you start thinking about food. What we have this day is we don't know when we're going to eat. So we've got this anticipation, oh, maybe I should eat now. I start thinking, and the mere thought you may eat increases your hunger, increases your attention to the hunger signals. Because the hunger signal comes and it goes. That's what happens. It comes, it goes. But if you give it attention, you keep focusing on it mentally, you then build it up and then it becomes a bigger thing. Now, I'm not saying the hunger is not real. What I'm saying is there's a lot of hunger signals are fake, and you want to be able to separate the two. So hunger retraining is not a bad strategy here. The way you hunger retrain is you go through periods where you say, I'm not going to eat between these time periods, and you're strict with it. Your brain will begin to downregulate sending hunger signals, and or if you are getting genuine hunger signals, it will not pay it as much attention. Now, you don't need to worry in regards if you think, well, what if this is dangerous? The body will keep sending more signals if it really is genuinely hungry, and you should give in to these and follow the guidance. But you'd be surprised how much is fake, how much hunger is not real. So those all together can be really powerful in controlling hunger. One last thing to say is about exercise. Some people, their exercise routine accelerates hunger more than it should. So there are studies on this. That some people are responding to exercise well, other people are not. So basically what happens is, let's say I run 500 calories. I might get 400 calories hungrier, 300 calories hungrier, which is fine because that's a net positive. But a lot of people, they become 700 calories hungrier, 800 calories hungrier, and the exercise routine they're doing is creating too much hunger. So what you need to do is either change the type or reduce the volume or look at it as an experimental method. Now, most people aren't doing enough exercise for this to even be a conversation, but a lot of people, they're doing too much or they're doing a type that is setting off their hunger cravings. This can also begin to blood sugar. For example, if you start a run at the beginning of low blood sugar and it drives it down and before it goes up, that can mess up your balance. The point being is exercise can be a factor that increases hunger in this new year. So these are the tips to look at. The idea is, first of all, check you're not massively under. And if you're not massively under, then that means some of these techniques are going to work. Play with those techniques. Look at the macro ratios, look at taste, look at satisfaction, look at sleep, and see if you can control the hunger to a level where it's now sustainable so you can go on and get results.